Hey everyone, it's Jeff, and let's talk about a storyline that I don't think anybody outside of the Chicago Bulls fan base has even thought about the last few days. And real quick, I'm feeling kind of sick today, so sorry if my voice sounds kind of muddled, I guess. But anyways, let's talk about Lauri Markkanen, whose NBA future is kind of questionable. I don't really know how he proceeds from here, and he's gonna be a restricted free agent this summer. And he's also he's told the press that he wants to be a starter. So basically, if you don't know what happened, the Bulls traded for Nikola Vucevic, and I think Markkanen started the first two games, maybe the first game with Vucevic, and then they swapped him to the bench for Thaddeus Young, who's been absolutely magnificent this year. And Thaddeus Young and Nikola Vucevic kind of front court has been pretty good. That works. Thaddeus Young is that defensive presence who, not the best shooter, but he can play make. He can do a little bit of everything on offense, and Vucevic covers up for his offensive, weaknesses because he's so good on offense, and Thad Young helps cover for Vucevic's defensive problems. And that's left Lauri Markkanen on the bench, where he's been not very good. So against the Jazz, he was pretty much a non-factor. And I'm recording this in the middle of the Nets game, but Markkanen's not playing well in this game either. But he's been struggling for a while now, and I don't think this is something that's just related only to him being moved to the bench, because for the last month, he's only been averaging 12 points per game, and he's shot 40% from the field and below 30% from three. Yeah, so for the last 2 weeks, basically, you've just had this 7-footer who doesn't play defense, doesn't rebound, and doesn't make three-pointers either. And he's just out there, running around, doing nothing pretty much. And Markkanen's been a good sport about it, right? He was gracious to the press, but he did tell the media that he wants to start. I don't think that's going to happen with Chicago, with Nikola Vucevic. I think though on offense that would work very well, just because when you can have two shooters out there like that, the power forward and center position, it would be awesome. But just defensively, it's just kind of disgusting. It's pretty gross to even think about playing those two together for long periods of time. But hey, let's talk about what he could actually bring to a team if he's playing well. So I was a pretty big fan of Markkanen after his second year in the league, pretty much. He averaged 19 points a game, 9 rebounds, shot very well from three, and I thought he had all the tools to just be this really good offensive player and average 25 points per game, kind of like Kristaps Porzingis. But then his third year, he was hurt for a lot of it, and Jim Boylan, who we now know is probably the worst coach in the league, was also not doing him any favors, and Markkanen had a pretty bad third season. And that's why Markkanen declined his extension offer this summer, well, last summer actually, because, why would he sign a buy low deal like that? And so he bet on himself for this season, and it hasn't exactly gone that well. He's still averaging 17 points per game and 6 rebounds. We're kind of starting to see a lot of problems coming through where you would hope that these problems would have been kind of covered up or not as big of a deal because he would be such a great shooter and offensive player. But he hasn't really progressed on that end, and it's just not worth it, right? So on offense, he's a small forward. His position is listed at power forward / center, but he's really a small forward. I've never seen him do any big man things on offense besides occasionally setting one screen and rolling to the basket. Everything he does is just what a wing would do. He's a wing stuck in a 7-footer's body. And the difference is between him and someone else who's 7 feet tall, like Ben Simmons, is he still moves like a big. It's very clear he's still a big. He's just being used like a wing because that's his only skill set. He's not a very good finisher around the basket, especially when there's contact involved. And pretty much his best offensive skill is just shooting. And he actually has kind of some ball skills where I've seen him actually take someone off the dribble quite a few times, and in transition he can be pretty good. But it's still very obvious that he's not going to be this ball handling wing, right? It's not like Pokusevski on the Thunder, who actually has the fluidity of a shooting guard small forward. Markkanen just does not have that same coordination. And Chicago, I think Billy Donovan's actually done a decent job of playing him to his strengths on offense. He comes off a lot of screens to top the key, takes a lot of three-pointers from up there, and it's really taking advantage of his best, his strongest skill, which is his shooting. But the problem is he just doesn't really do anything else, and he hasn't improved significantly since his rookie season, 4 years into the league. And defensively, I think, he kind of works as a wing on offense. He's just way too slow to actually play wing on defense. They usually just stick him on the other team's spot shooters. They're playing the Jazz and they're putting him on Royce O'Neal, and that's fine because Royce O'Neal isn't going to do anything besides just take spot up threes. But the other teams, they can just get Markkanen on a switch. And to combat and to avoid getting Markkanen on the switch, the Bulls would have to like switch prematurely just to get Lauri Markkanen off of whoever's screening. Like for example, if it's Royce O'Neal was going to set a screen for Donovan Mitchell, so the Jazz can get Markkanen on a switch, what the Bulls like would do was they would have Patrick Williams switch with Lauri Markkanen before that like screenplay happened. So then it'll be Patrick Williams going up to, guard the pick and roll. But I just feel like that's way too much work and effort for this guy who's just not even that good. It's one thing to hide someone like Isaiah Thomas on defense, and it's another to hide Lauri Markkanen. And like I mentioned, he is 7 feet tall, but he's not a great rim protector because, like, one, he just doesn't have the same, like, athletic tools. He can't jump very high, his wingspan's pretty limited, and he's also not very strong. And two, he's just a terrible rebounder for his size. Like, come on, he's 7 feet tall and he's getting 6 rebounds a game. And like, yeah, it's because he spends a lot of time on the perimeter, but so does Steph Curry. And Steph Curry's like 6'3", and he grabs pretty much the same amount of rebounds every single game as Markkanen. And like, Markkanen doesn't even like just do the whole boxing out thing. Like, he does it, but he doesn't really do it that well. And after painting that picture for you guys, I don't think any NBA team would be willing to pay someone like Markkanen over $15 million a year. If this was back in like 2012, 2013, when stretch bigs were just becoming a thing, then yeah, someone would fork over like $25 million a year because they'll think, oh, this is going to be the next Dirk Nowitzki. But these days, pretty much everybody's a stretch big, so his one biggest skill isn't as unique anymore, and he just hasn't progressed enough in his other, I guess, tools to really make that big of a difference. So like, the point I'm trying to make on offense is that he has the tools to beat a great offensive player, but he's pretty much been stalling for 4 years. And I know there's that group of like NBA fans who just get super mad whenever you say anything remotely critical about any NBA player, and they'll just be like, Kyle Lowry took half a century to develop, or Chauncey Billups took like a million years. But come on, just be like realistic. That's not usually what happens in the NBA. So looking at it, even if I was a team like Sacramento Kings that just needs talent, I would not sign Lauri Markkanen to like $15 million a year. I think Harrison Barnes is already better than Markkanen, and I'd rather just go with Harrison Barnes over Markkanen. Even if Harrison Barnes is like 5 years older, I just think he's better. It's better for Fox to have someone like that. I do think San Antonio would be the most interesting destination. And it's not just because Markkanen's a European. I think like, it's the Spurs. They've done a great job of developing players and just kind of bringing the best out of guys. Like, take a look at DeMar DeRozan. So obviously, they didn't fix his three-point shot, and it kind of regressed even, but they made DeMar DeRozan this like playmaker that he's never been at any point in his career until he got to San Antonio. And even with LaMarcus Aldridge kind of, so obviously his offensive game didn't improve from Portland to San Antonio, but defensively, like, it was kind of impressive how he actually became this decent NBA defender when he was never that in Portland either. So I do wonder if like the Spurs throw him, let's say like $15-16 million a year for like 4 years. I think that's reasonable for a guy who could potentially be still like pretty good, I guess. They could eke out some more just improvements. Other than that though, I can't really think of any teams that are just like great fits for him. And San Antonio isn't even like a particularly awesome fit. I just think it would be an interesting place to see what else he can do. And that's kind of the problem with Markkanen, where I just don't think he does enough right now. And like, even if he just stays at this level for the rest of his career, he'll still be in NBA for a long time, right? Because you have guys like Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is pretty much Lauri Markkanen's floor. And I do think Markkanen is better than Olynyk because I think Markkanen is a better ball handler. I think he's a better passer too. And he overall just has a better like natural instinct for scoring. But he really has to just pick it up, or else he's not going to be a starter for a good NBA team.